Hi there, welcome to Back and Forth. I'm Daniel, and I'm here with the CEO of Think Global Logistics, TGL, La Cheng. Nice to have you on.
It's good to be on my podcast with you guys who are taking over the reins of presenting and coming up with content ideas. So yeah, well done, guys.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about how to build a brand and how that relates to TGL, and also how we can help someone that's wanting to start their own brand. So first up, what is the meaning to you for the word brand?
When creating a business, a proper branding is fundamental to the power of that brand or the power of the product that you're trying to build. Mm-hmm. Let's face it, behind every good product, every good service, there's always a good origin story. And branding needs to come from that to represent who you are. Okay, I've seen more often than not that, especially in our industry in logistics, where you've got people who starts their own business, very small scale, who clearly haven't paid enough attention on their branding. And that's why we have so many of our competitors all sound very much similar to one another, right? And often very little thought has gone through that. For example, you go it invariably becomes very, sort of lack of creativity in the area, air, sea transport, or, some sort of, very sort of pedestrian style of branding.
Yeah.
Especially in an industry such as logistics, right? In New South Wales, there's over 1,000 competitors in what we do, which is international freight forwarding. And if you're going to sound like everyone else, air transport, sea transport, and so forth, or, whatever some beige branding that you come up with, you're going to get lost in the landscape.
Mm.
And so I think, especially when you starting off a business, it is very important to create a branding that, that you're different from the rest of the crew or the rest of the ecosystem that you are joining. I mean, of course, the branding is not the end or be all, but it does help, and it is very fundamental. And usually the strong branding companies that I've come across, they all come from or derive from a strong purpose of why that business was created in the first place, rather than just go for a quick cash grab or just say, I'm just here to make money. There are a lot of those companies out there, good luck to them. But I think especially in 2023 now, if you want to create a business that's going to have the legs to go on, not just for the next 5 years, but you have grand visions of it becoming a global entity. A strong origin story with strong branding is critical, in my view.
Well, you speak of story. How about the story of TGL? What was your idea when coming up with this brand?
How I think Global Logistics was created back in the day, I think it was just really coming from my background in being in the logistics industry since back end of 97. And over the course of the next 10, 15 years, I was part of this industry, joining different companies of all shapes and sizes in different continents and what have you. I've noticed that one of the common problems that was plaguing everybody that I was a part of, every company that I was part of, that was just like how little people who were working at the desk level, how little they were thinking. Mm. Because most of them were just quite robotic processes. And because there was such lack of training and lack of care from the management to the subordinates or the day-to-day operation staff and sales staff, people stopped thinking. They're just turning up and they're just punching in data into the keyboard and just watching the clock and getting
like
on,
robots.
Yeah, exactly. They were clock watchers.
Yeah.
So, and that's where, being a business development guy, a lot of my complaints from my customers weren't that, your company isn't capable of handling our stuff. More so, it was like, you guys are capable, but you guys are making these silly mistakes. And then when I dive into these silly mistakes, it was just simple human error that people weren't thinking what they were doing. So when I guess it was time for me to create a name or for the entity or for my business, I really took a long, hard thought process and long, hard think about what does my business mean? Why do I want to create it? And what problem is it trying to solve? And this, we ultimately arrived at Think Global Logistics, you know. And it wasn't an overnight thing, because I really had to do a lot of soul searching and saying, why are you creating this business? And what real value are you going to bring to the party, as opposed just to copy the big guy that's in the marketplace and make a little mini cut price version of that. If you're going to start a company with a whole purpose of just going for cash grab, but you like wanting to sort of replicate everything you do like the biggest guy already in your industry, don't do it, because you bring no value to the picture, because you're just a cut price discount version and unsecured version of that big guy. So why would any customer use you, right?
100%.
There's a lot of our competitors in the marketplace that are exactly that.
Wow.
And that's why, you know, a lot of them sort of come and go pretty quickly, because they haven't really bring any of their unique selling propositions. So from the onset, I guess, you know, in a very roundabout way, branding identity was very critical to TGL's, origin story. And Think Global Logistics was just, you know, really to try to bring that difference to the fore in a very precise, unique name. And I still think Global Logistics is a very unique name in the industry.
Definitely, yeah. Like you said, they're all just sea import something like
air, sea transport, sea, air transport, you know, or first name, surname, logistics. There are a lot. Look, I'm not here to rubbish any of those, those branding, but I feel that especially when you're in a industry where it's so cluttered, every little detail matters. And most of the success stories in our times we've come to recognize, it's always been because not have they just done the main core business right, but it's all the little details they've really thought about and pieced it together into this great and grand story for their customers to sort of get their teeth around. And I suppose, you know, just even talking about Think Global Logistics, that, you know, what I've just shared with you all, you know, you can tell that we haven't just pulled it out of our back end and, you know, let's just flog it and get customers and make money. No, we really care about this industry. We really care about our people. So we don't, you know, only call our company Think Global Logistics, but we actually inject that philosophy into our staff, into how we train our staff, making sure when our staff does things, they actually think, versus to my previous experiences where I was working next to colleagues who weren't thinking.
That's an incredible story. And like you mentioned, a lot of pitfalls for companies are just to copy all the big ones, right? What are some other pitfalls that someone that's trying to start a brand can fall into, and what are ways to avoid these mistakes?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about branding, I mean, look, I mean, okay, there are many pitfalls. There are obviously your product pitfalls, your commercial due diligence pitfalls. But if we just focus on branding side of things, really, again, you know, the branding ideas in terms of what you're going to call yourself, how it will look, will be very easy if you actually understand what you are bringing to the table, or what you're bringing to the table in terms of why you are different to your competitors, and are those differences meaningful?
Right.
And if you answer those two questions, yes, a strong positive yes, then branding usually should come pretty easily, because you don't really need a marketing genius to help you create your own unique selling propositions, right? Yep. Unless you're completely, you know, lack any sort of creativity, then maybe, so seek out a professional entity to help you design the logo and what have you. I mean, our logo, you know, we did pay someone to create that logo. I created the first iteration of our logo. I think can still be found online somewhere.
Oh, wow.
So the original logo, I created all of that myself, but it was amateur because I'm not a marketing pro. But eventually we created our own logo through a professional entity after them learning about our origin story, which I extremely happy with, which is the current TGL logo that you see. So I guess for us, you know, and I guess for the young startups out there, you know, if you've got a strong product, the branding will follow. And if you can't see the branding, or if it doesn't feel right, whatever you're coming up with, seek professional help, because they will help you envisage or realize that branding concept. So from that, it's important, guys. It's very important. And this, just the slightest difference in color, variance, or the way the logo feels, how the name sounds, can leave a very good in-depth sort of impression, or a very good detailed impression for your potential customers.
So you mentioned like seeking out experts, right? Well, TGL is a freight forwarding expert. How do we help someone that's wanting to start a brand, that's starting to build a brand? Where do we come in, and how are we useful to someone just starting up?
I've always been a strong believer that obviously if you're joining an industry or you're supplying into an industry where there is physical hard products, a freight forwarding company should be, or logistics provider should be consulted from the very, very early stages to a point of your business planning, right? No one should really start a business without a proper business plan. And part of that business plan, if you are into fixed, if you're into, hard physical goods, the most important part is logistics. So you cannot write a robust business plan without logistics, or accurate logistics, or as accurate as you can get at that stage, I suppose, being factored into your business plan. Right. Understanding the costs, or understanding the viability of your products, or bring those products to market. So for any startups out there looking to create their own brand and own identity and own business that deals in physical goods, you need to consult logistics providers from the outset. Sure, a lot of our multinationals won't be there to hold your hand because you're too small for them, and they're not really structured to assist in that manner.
They don't care, do they?
They don't care.
Yeah.
But we do. TGL is still small enough to care, and I would dare say it doesn't matter how large TGL grows, we will always allocate a portion of our services and resources for the startups and the smaller sized businesses, because those were our bread and butter that has brought us to the level that we are currently. And so we won't turn our backs, and we still see a lot of value in startups and small businesses.
Well, I guess that leads us back to branding, because what we're talking about is how much TGL helps the people, right? And with our slogan, our people, our technology, your advantage, we apply that,
Yeah,
our
well,
purpose.
I mean, okay, if you look at the TGL branding, there's three elements. Obviously, the name itself, TGL, think global logistics. I've already shared with you guys the origin stories of how that name came about. Then we have the logo, which is the ribbon, three-pointed star. So that is basically, we have air for 1 point, sea for the second point, and land for the third point. And because the shape of our three-pointed ribbon star, the reason why it's that shape, it's actually an abstract logo, or an abstract view of the Chinese character for people. So for all of our listeners, go and Google what Chinese character people look like, and then sort of superimpose that onto our logo. You get that connection there. Okay?
That's really cool.
And so that ties everything together in very nicely, because why? You can think, right? But you need good people to think. And that's why one of our key values and philosophy for this business is to make sure we find good people, train them well, so they can look after the people that's going to use us for our services. And then that arrives at our slogan, all right, our motto: our people, our technology, your advantage. So, look, I'm not here to say TGL's branding is, God's gift of branding. It's not. But I will say that everything we have that is part of our identity has been carefully thought out and planned out and designed as such. And everything has lineage or linkage to one or the other. Nothing is done randomly. just like our service to our customers. Everything is well thought of and thought out. And so I think we've got a pretty good, strong brand at TGL.
Yeah, I think you're doing it right. When you have the purpose and you have the vision, you're doing it right.
Well, you are paid to say that.
Though I'll say it anyways.
Yeah. But look, I think just even with our experience, Daniel, as you know, being part of Team TGL, I hope over the years that you guys and Jerry behind the camera, you guys can feel our people part, right? Because everything we do here is with purpose and not just hack job, and that will always be a strong cultural value of TGL.
Definitely, and I think we all can agree on that. Thanks for having.
No more other questions?
Yeah. No, I think that's all. You answered a lot of them in one go. It was very, very efficient. But yeah, thanks for coming on, La, and hopefully we'll have you back on soon.
Yeah.
Anything you last would like to say to the viewers, the audience?
I think the only thing I want to say to the viewers is that for those of our most loyal followers, not many of you, but I know that some of the good folks that are listening to this, they've been following us for some time. And again, making YouTube content it's definitely not my day job, but we are trying our best to add some color to the industry, add color to the people or our viewers, color to startups, and then add value, most importantly, to the community which we're a part of. It takes a lot of effort to create these type of content, as all of our viewers may know or may not know, and it would mean the world to us, I think, or whoever is watching or listening to this, to drop us a line and give us some feedback and even some ideas in terms of what content they want us to produce. With respect to logistics, with respect to startups, information or how-to videos, from a young startup perspective. If you're a mature company, ask us the hard questions about, pricing, what's good pricing, what's good service for your needs. And then the other element of, and also, some of you guys will ask us or give us requests on who we should interview in terms of the industry experts that they want to hear from. We're happy to reach out to those folks for you and do a podcast or a YouTube video on it. So the most important thing is we need guidance and direction from our followers, because this channel is created for our followers, full stop. And the purpose is to educate the community, which we're part of, about logistics and all the good stuff that surrounds it.
Perfect. Thanks again, La. And subscribe, and